The Fantastic Four are a pretty weird group of characters. Despite being some of the most iconic superheroes in the world, they've yet to get a single decent on-screen adaptation. 2005's Fantastic Four will always hold a special place in my heart for nostalgic reasons, but let's not kid ourselves, the movie ain't holding up well at all. Yet, in spite of delivering nothing but garbage, these characters have managed to hold on to their relevancy, like a nepo baby failing upward in their career. Every few months since we've heard the Fantastic Four would be coming to the Marvel Universe, the characters would randomly trend on Twitter with speculations and rumors as to who would play them. Names like Emily Blunt and John Krasinski, who, let's be honest, wasn't all he was cranked up to be when he got his moment to shine in Doctor Strange before being shredded into superhero cheese. For the first time in over 2 decades of despair, it felt like Marvel would finally give the characters the justice they deserve. And I went into this movie with bated breath. Everything I've heard was super intriguing. On top of that, you've got director Matt Shakman at the helm, who directed one of the most underrated Marvel properties in WandaVision. But it is still Marvel who, let's be honest, since the release of Avengers Endgame have only been getting further and further away from their prime. But just like the first steps launches its iconic characters to the backdrop of the retro-futuristic 60s, it also thrusts the Marvel Cinematic Universe back to its glory days, delivering a killer debut for its characters, one which matches and even exceeds the likes of early Marvel origin movies. Whenever a superhero movie focuses on family, it tends to point the lens on found family. Guardians of the Galaxy, Thunderbolts, the Suicide Squad, they're all ultimately a bunch of misfits who are thrust into working with one another before developing a familial bond. But Fantastic Four is different. A husband, a wife, a brother, whatever the hell Ben Grimm is, it feels genuinely refreshing to watch a Marvel movie about a genuine family, bound together by blood and union, and it's a type of family that I relate to far more than the others. If there's one thing I need to buy into in a Fantastic Four movie, it's the relationship between the core characters, and there wasn't a second where I didn't buy into it here. Marvel has rightfully received a lot of criticism for leaning way too much into juvenile humor, but this movie's more dramatic tone creates a family dynamic which feels genuinely sincere and, dare I say, heartfelt. Sure, the characters poke fun at each other here and there, but the jokes are never too mean-spirited. They clearly come from a place of love. Even in the action scenes, which are far and few in between, the movie lets the characters care for one another shine. It's baked into the DNA of the film, even in the inclusion of Franklin Richards, Reed and Sue's all-powerful son from the comic books. As an uncle myself, the inclusion of Franklin was an easy way of tugging at my heartstrings. Without giving too much away, Franklin Richards plays into a central dilemma faced in the movie, and the way in which the characters struggle to balance their duty to the greater good with their love for their child, I thought was incredibly compelling. The big question going into this movie is how well would the cast do in their roles. Casting director Sarah Haley Finn deserves a spot in the Hollywood Walk of Fame for her work in the MCU, but on paper, I wasn't impressed by the names chosen, and for the most part, I ended up feeling pretty foolish. At face value, Pedro Pascal's casting as Mr. Fantastic might read, no pun intended, as an uninspired attempt at cashing in on an overexposed actor during a big moment. But seeing him in the movie, I have to give one big apology to Sarah Haley Finn for doubting her casting instinct. Whether he was cast for the wrong or right reasons, he just sings in the role. Not only does he bring the brains of the character to life, he manages to portray that very same intelligence as just as much of a flaw as it is a strength. He commands a lot of gravitas, which makes him the perfect fit to play the leader of the F4. But if Pedro Pascal is the leader, then Vanessa Kirby is the heart. And what a strong strong beating heart it is, bringing a maternal instinct to the character, which easily makes her the strongest live-action portrayal of Susan Storm. Joseph Quinn is a much less flashier Johnny Storm than we've seen before. He's less smooth and more quirky, but Quinn imbues him with some more heart than we traditionally see in the character, while bringing the same level of charisma he's put to the screen since his breakout role in Stranger Things. I mean, I just love the guy. Ralph Ineson is a fantastic Galactus, and you don't need to watch the movie in IMAX to feel his voice literally vibrate across your chest. Julia Garner is a solid Silver Surfer, and wait, what's that? Did I accidentally skip a Fantastic Four member? Yes and no, because it wasn't by accident. It brings me zero joy to say that Ebon Moss-Bachrach as the Thing absolutely baffles me. Listen, I'm a sucker for the gentle giant archetype, but Ebon's performance in this movie is way too gentle and not enough giant. Funnily enough, if Ebon played his character the exact same way he did in The Bear, he'd be a far better Ben Grimm than he is here. Like, Ben Grimm's a softy at heart, but he should be rough around the edges, and this movie fails to punctuate that aspect of the character. For all the praise I have for the cast, I imagine they could have had far more chemistry with each other. The characters here were auditioned separately, which I think was a mistake. James Gunn talked about how he auditioned Clark Kent and Lois Lane together for Superman, and you can clearly see how that paid off, because the difference in chemistry here is night and day. Sure, there's a lot of care between the group, but they're not bouncing off each other like ping pong balls. Marvel movies often feel less like cinematic events and more like high budget TV shows. Their directors aren't directors, they're mere puppets. But the same cannot be said about director Matt Shakman. F4 is the distinct vision of a director who brings his vision of a retro-futuristic 60s to life in spectacular fashion. The impeccable production design, the rousing anthem of a score, and the dazzling visual effects all collide to create a compelling visual foray into another time period and universe. Marvel movies lean way too much into CGI, so Shakman's commitment to going practical, even with something like the Fantastica, makes a world of difference. And it's enough for me to almost forgive the CGI baby. Almost. Considering how strong the visuals are, it's a shame there aren't more action sequences, which would have also just given us way more time to see the Fantastic Four put their powers to use. I mean, someone like Ben Grimm, I feel like he barely clobbered anything until the third act. But whenever people aren't punching each other, I was every bit as compelled. The family dynamic at the core of the first steps works incredibly well, creating a superhero film which feels refreshingly familial and heartfelt. On a technical front, the movie is one of Marvel's best, delivering on an experience which feels like the work of a singular director and not a Frankenstein of different department heads. And for that, I'm giving this one an 8.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for weekly TV and movie reviews. And if you've had the chance to watch Fantastic Four: The First Steps, let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. I'm Cinemike, and I'll see you next time.